Recently, Dick, the SEC's become embroiled in scandals as regulators appear to have been complicit in the crimes. Possibly intentionally failing to regulate illegal activities in the stock market, mostly of products destined to fail, created again mainly by lawyers and deregulated wholly by lawyers. In fact, what's often found in the Ponzi schemes and other frauds, in the financial frauds, is that after being ousted by the SEC, these former regulators get instantly snapped up by the law firms with cushy partnership deals, waiting, and vice versa. They go from the law firms into the SEC, and they go from the SEC into the law firm. So it's really conflicted. And, you got to wonder why these SEC regulators or these lawyers are leaving multi-million-dollar law firm jobs to take a $100,000 public servant job. And, maybe it's so that they deregulate the crimes that their law firms are running. So, and to hold off any investigations, as you'll see in a moment with some of the Ponzi's that we're going to discuss. So anyways, new SEC complaints have been filed over the last year, in fact, Dick, regarding several Fortune 500 companies like Intel, SGI, Lockheed, AOL, Sony, and Time Warner, just to name a few. And it's pointing out massive shareholder fraud that's being committed by these companies who are hiding the liabilities from their shareholders. And the management is wholly aware at all of those companies of their, of the lawsuit and the infringement of my technologies. And, we'll see if the FCC has really truly reformed itself or if it's merely lip service and they're burying and covering up, the complaints I filed with them recently.
So Eliot, what's happened with all these complaints?
Well, Dick, as I mentioned, at the federal level, investigations were begun and remain today ongoing in all federal instances. And in fact, they've compounded recently with new cover-up crimes being discovered and new complaints filed for those crimes. The federal complaints were filed against the same attorneys as we filed against in the states, but at the state level, especially with the bar complaints in civil courts, we were stopped, Dick, from our rights, basically by brute force denial of due process committed through a continuous fraud on the courts by the court members. In fact, Dick, it was the federal investigator Harry Motes of the U.S. Patent Office who asked me at one point when I filed with him what was going on with the state bar complaints and if they were looking at the same information as I sent him regarding the stolen patents, the fraud patents, the perjuries in Labarga's court, and more. And he asked why the state investigators hadn't begun their investigations yet. And Motes then requested calls with the Florida Bar, the New York disciplinary committees, the Virginia Bar, to discuss his findings with theirs. And Dick, amazingly and suspiciously, both refused to contact Motes, claiming they were not obligated to discuss their investigations with anyone, which, makes no sense. So the state bars then instantly, upon their request, began a campaign to dismiss the bar complaints without investigation, stating they were dismissed on review, their standard, blow-off letter. And none of their rules were followed in doing that. And so with each illegal obfuscation of justice to get out of the complaints, we filed additional complaints against each member of those state bars that was committing part of the cover-up crimes. Then, Dick, it was discovered how exactly the law firms were blocking the complaints against themselves in the state bars and the civil courts. And, Dick, the glue that binds all of these cover-up crimes is an intricate web of conflicts of interest used to violate public offices by public officials. Almost all of these public officials have legal degrees and come from a group, basically, of mainly white shoe law firms from New York that have tentacles throughout the nation. And again, most of these guys have law degrees that were bought through pedigree, not through prodigy, Dick. They were gained from our finest Ivy League schools, bought on who you know, not what you know. And to sidetrack for a moment, Dick, you have to wonder how all these Harvard and Yale geniuses who have been running our country, and take, for example, the last two presidents and their Ivy League cabinets, for example, and all Ivy Leaguers from into the Justice Department, to the highest posts in ethics and regulatory posts. And these are supposedly the smartest guys on the block running our country, Dick. And ask yourself, if they're so smart, how have they ruined the country? How have such so-called brilliant men run the country into the ground and bankrupted us, both morally and financially? Companies with hundreds of years of history, including car companies, institutional banks, mortgage companies, investment banks, manufacturers, all driven out of business by these smart guys. Millions of Americans, Dick, jobs have been lost. Millions of homes have been lost. Trillions of dollars in fraudulent securities and government schemes and transactions are taking place, before our nose. Trillions more in these illegal wars of aggression we're in. And all of this has shattered the American dream. And it's all been committed by a failure of government to regulate the government. And, that just shows the foxes are obviously in the henhouse. And the only ones to benefit from this tragedy besetting the country, Dick, is the few that are causing the calamities, benefiting through criminal acts. And the question, Dick, really is, when will the hunter, the people, when will they return to exterminate the fox from the henhouse? And that's really the state our country is in. So if these elitist Ivy Leaguers with bought degrees are truly working for the people, Dick, why have they tried to also set themselves above the law, above the people, as almost like a monarchy of oligarchs built on criminal activities gone wild? And why have they destroyed the American middle class and forced poverty on millions while they make billions themselves? Billions upon billions, Dick, in bonuses right in your face, while the country's going to hell in a bucket. And they're profiting from the ripping off of your home equities, your 401ks, your stock portfolios, your bank accounts. And note that while the country's slipping into this Great Depression, the rich have grown proportionally richer. And it's not due to normal economic factors or good business. It's a result, Dick, simply of crime. And, perhaps these, quote, lawyers are more like those lawyers in the Mario Puzo's Godfather, Dick. Have they really received legal degrees with the intent to sabotage law and disable prosecution for their crimes against the people for the benefit of, La Familia? I mean, Don Corleone in that Godfather movie said, a lawyer with a briefcase can steal more than 1,000 men with guns. We, the people, Dick, are now living through thousands of lawyers with briefcases, stealing more than 1 million men with guns in the tune of trillions of dollars off the, backs of taxpayers. It's pathetic, Dick. That's how the Ivy Leaguers are making a living these days, by ripping off the people and, trying to block the crimes against themselves. It's really sad. And these are the privileged people who got to go to those schools and were lucky enough and inherited all this wealth of their dads and grandpas and everybody else. And this is how they're treating the people who built them and built the empires that, that they so seek to destroy, actually.